Now, the Nigerian Senate reconvened for an emergency session and passed the Electoral Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2026, approving a 300-day notice period for elections to accommodate the Ramadan season. The amendment to Clause 28 reduces the earlier proposed 360-day notice requirement. Lawmakers argued that maintaining the 360-day timeline could result in 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections falling within Ramadan, a development they said could affect voter turnout, logistics, stakeholder engagement, and the overall inclusiveness of the electoral process. There was mounting pressure from sections of the Muslim community to adjust the election timetable to avoid a clash with the fasting period.
I wish to move the motion.
The Senate leader, Opeyemi Bamidele, coming under Order 1B of the Senate rule, led the motion to recommit and reenact the Electoral Act, explaining that certain clauses needed review. He noted that INEC had met with the National Assembly leadership to discuss concerns over the election timetable coinciding with Ramadan.
Stakeholders within the Muslim communities had reached out to INEC to say that the proposed date of February 2027, during which time they had fixed the presidential and National Assembly elections, general elections, would conflict with the Ramadan exercise.
The Senate then dissolved into Committee of the Whole to consider the bill clause by clause.
Clauses 51.
Clause 1 to 59 were adopted without controversy. Proceeding became tense when lawmakers reached the contentious Clause 60 sub 3, which deals with electronic transmission of election result.
Closed session.
The chamber immediately moved into a closed session. When doors reopened, argument and counter-argument continued.
The Senate did not come to a conclusion. You made a ruling and we are questioning the ruling. You can't say that. No, you can't. This is the Senate. You can't say that. This is the Senate.
Senator Eyinaya Abaribe invoked Order 72 and called for a division.
So I'm calling for a division.
What Senator Abaribe is asking for is that he would like to be seen there in the social media.
Mr. President, that is not true. I am talking for Nigerians, not from Senator Abaribe. I want Nigerians to know.
You are the presiding officer. Nobody is going to tell you on how to conduct this division.
If you are in support that the word proviso remains to enable the presiding officer to do so after imputing all the items, can you rise and raise your hand so that the public can see you? Raise your hand, stand up, raise your hand, don't open your mouth so that the public can see you. We want to see those who are saying if the transmission or communication fails, that the election stops there.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Don't, Mr. President, don't. Please. No proviso.
Minority senators clarified the position is for the provisor to be deleted.
Don't oppose the proviso. Your hand. And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
After the adoption, the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, commended lawmakers, describing the exercise as a vote for democracy. Now, the Senate subsequently adopted the votes and proceedings from today's plenary, paving the way for the conference committee to harmonize the various versions that have been passed by the both chambers of the National Assembly for onward transmission to President Bola Tinubu for possible assent. Oyeja Orom, AIT News, Abuja.
Nigeria's House of Representatives on Tuesday passed the revised Electoral Act Amendment Bill against stiff resistance from members of the opposition political parties who protested the inclusion of manual collation in Clause 60, subsection 3 of the bill. Lawmakers also reduced the notice of elections to 300 days to allow the Independent National Electoral Commission flexibility in their scheduling of election timetable towards accommodating concerns raised by northern leaders.
It is very important that we sacrifice this morning to come and attend to those important issues. Issues that will define the elections of 2027 and give clear vision as to what is expected to be done.
The disagreement began when House Speaker Tajuddin Abbas called on the committee chairman on rules and business, Francis Waevi, to move a motion for the rescission and recommittal of the bill to allow for the reconsideration towards addressing matters termed critical national issues.
Desirous of correcting the identified inconsistencies and unintended consequences through appropriate legislative action.
But immediately after Waevi's lead debate, lawmakers, mostly from opposition political parties, disagreed with the move. But the APC lawmakers, with a commanding majority on the floor, insisted that the day's business must continue, resulting in a rowdy session. The House then moved into an executive session to address the disagreements. Upon resumption, the protest continued, with members calling for clause-by-clause consideration if the bill must be considered.
We don't have the copies. We need a copy. We don't have the copies, Mr. Chairman.
After intervention by some members of the leadership, the lawmakers settled for clause-by-clause consideration. But the protest resumed when the consideration got to Clause 60 of the bill, which deals with electronic transmission of election results.
Where there is successful transmission, the transmitted results shall have the same effect with the physical from EC 8A. Yes. That's all Nigerians are asking for. And that is the least we can do.
Any second that produce motion. Clause 59. Clause 60. Clause 61. Clause 62.
The day after settled for voice votes to decide whether to expunge or retain the provision for manual collation of results, a process that went the way of the ruling party.
Of this motion, say aye. Those against, say nay.
Unsatisfied with the proceedings, most opposition lawmakers staged a walkout. Addressing the media outside plenary, the minority leader, Kingsley Chinda, insists that they are against any provision that will encourage rigging.
Our position is that elections shall and should be transmitted electronically. Yes. We are against any clause that will give room for any manipulation or rigging or leeway for any untoward act.
Meanwhile, lawmakers at the end of voting retained all recommendations in the recommitted bill, a development that has thrown up a debate over the date for the forthcoming general election. Ugianawe Udwimo, AIT News, Abuja.
Now, civil society organizations across Nigeria have intensified protests over what they described as the National Assembly's unsatisfactory handling of amendments to the Electoral Act. The groups, including Action Aid Nigeria and the Civil Society Situation Room, say they are disappointed with the response of the National Assembly of Nigeria, particularly the Nigerian Senate.
real-time electronic transmission of results. Say aye.
According to the organizations, real-time electronic transmission of election results is non-negotiable and reflects the will of the Nigerian people. They insist that anything short of full digital transmission will undermine transparency and public confidence in the electoral process. The groups have vowed to sustain peaceful demonstrations until their demands for credible, transparent, and technology-driven elections are fully addressed by lawmakers.
Real-time electronic transmission of results. Mandatory. Without any condition. No condition. Let us get there and we'll sort out every issue we have.
We stand with this version. We refuse to cave in. We refuse to give up. No real-time transmission is no credible election. Enough is enough.
Beyond civil society groups, several prominent Nigerians have also expressed concern. Among them is former presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Adewale Adebayo, whose support called for stronger electoral transparency reforms.
Under which platform are you calling on National Assembly to do this?
Platform on Nigerian citizens. Yes. You have movement for credible election here. You have revolution now. You have market women. Important thing is that we're all Nigerians, and we want honesty, we want fairness, we want justice. We want to preserve our sovereignty. It's under this platform. It's not a political thing. It's a citizens' movement. This is what they call participatory democracy.
And we are going to mobilize Nigerians in tens of millions. And this is where we're going to stay until the Nigerian people take over their house.
Shortly after the remarks were made, security operatives fired tear gas to disperse the protesters, sending demonstrators scampering for safety. Ogie Ihimekmen, AIT News, Abuja.
Leaders of the Taraba Tiv Youth Association on Tuesday staged a peaceful protest at the National Assembly complex, calling for urgent federal intervention over alleged killings and displacement of Tiv communities in Taraba State. Addressing journalists at the National Assembly gate, the group alleged a sustained attack on Tiv settlements, resulting in death, destruction of property, and mass displacement. Now, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has accused opposition figures advocating electronic transmission of election results of playing politics, describing the protests in recent weeks as deceptive and self-serving. Speaking at a distinguished personality lecture at the University of Abuja, Wike said many of those now leading the campaign for e-voting ignored similar reforms while they were in power.
The University of Abuja is hosting the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory as the special guest lecturer at its 2026 Distinguished Personality Lecture Series.
And give a warm round of applause.
While delivering his lecture at the Faculty of Social Sciences Auditorium, the Minister, Nyesom Wike, used the opportunity to address recent developments in the polity, particularly the growing demand for the electronic transmission of votes ahead of the 2027 general elections.
The other day, some people went to a demonstration, and somebody said, I brought my son here. He's a doctor, in case anybody falls down. Meanwhile, the child has no medical equipment with him. Meanwhile, there's no ambulance there with him, in case anybody slumps. And this is the kind of thing, the kind of leadership we want. And we're happy. People are talking about electronic transmission. Today, why not ask who were those who were responsible that there was no electronic transmission in the last election? When they're out of office, they become the people's voice. But when they're inside office, they won't say anything.